finally, so how do we become a servant leader? How do we become a servant leader? Well, let's take a look at this. First of all, stop reflecting on yourself. Now, self-awareness is a huge part of being any type of leader. And so you're going to have to look at yourself and examine yourself and see where you are. Just say, okay, how do I feel about this particular situation? How do I feel about my role on this team? And it says, do you lead to feed your ego or do you nourish others? And that's really what it's about. Do you respect the team or do you want them or is it all about you? And I like this question. It says, are you confident enough in yourself to let your team share the power in the decision making? Sometimes as scrum masters, I've been a scrum master for a long time. When I remember when I first became a scrum master, I thought I was a project manager and this was my team. And it took me a while to grow out of that. So, but the only way I was able to do that is by reflecting on myself, doing a self-examination, being self-aware. So that's the first thing. Start by reflecting on yourself. Take a deep look inside. Sometimes it's a hard look, but be honest with yourself. I like the next one. Stop being the smartest person in the room. And sometimes that's very, very hard. Stop being the smartest person in the room. For me, my mindset is if I'm the smartest person in the room, then as a team, we got a problem. Because there are, the team is much more talented than I am. And my job as a scrum master is to make sure they function as best as they can as a team. So I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And so, as it says, invite, others' point of view. I mean, listen. That goes back to the listening. It goes back to listening. Listening is so important in our relationships, regardless of what kind of relationship it is. It is so important. It is a key element in all of our relationships. And so, listen to someone else's point of view. Matter of fact, as a scrum master, I try to my goal is to try to get them to give me their point of view, because more often than not, I have, my team is saying, well, okay, whatever. But my goal is, as a scrum master, is to get them to talk and to give me their point of views, because their point of view is very important. Okay. Know your team's motivation and dynamics. Yeah, you got to know your team. You got to know your team. What motivates them? What makes them click? And with that, and that comes from being invested in that team's growth. That comes from understanding that team, spending time with that team, understanding, being, listening and having empathy and all of those things. That comes with, that's how you know your team and know what motivates them. And is it going to cost you something? Is it going to cost you some time? Is it going to cost you some investment? Is it going to cost you some hurt? Yeah, sure it is. But as a servant leader, that's who you are. That's what you do. That's what you do. Finally, it says, look for what you can change. It says this week, but whenever. Look for what you can change for the better. Not change for the sake of change, but change for the better. And always be on the lookout. Look for some, what about that? Where can I catalyze some change at? That's effective, that's productive, that's that truly exhibits my characteristics as a servant leader. Because change is not always a bad thing. Change sometimes can be very hard, but it's not necessarily always a bad thing. Not at all. Okay, final thoughts. And I'm picking on Scrum Masters because I am one. It says Scrum Master should lead the charge to team-wide servant leadership. Team-wide, not just the Scrum Master being the servant leader, team-wide servant leadership. And Scrum Master, it's not about us. The team is not ours to control. And this is not original for me. I found this from somewhere. I don't remember where I got it from. It says you should be like a good referee. They are not the central figure of a game. Now, some sporting events, the only thing you see is a referee. To me, that's not a good referee. That's who we should be as Scrum Masters, as Agile coaches, or whatever it is. We should be leading the charge to team-wide servant leadership. I think that should be our goal. Should be our goal, because servant leadership is not just for the Scrum Master. I know that's who we should be. That's who we ought to be, but it's not just for us, because the team as a whole, if you think about it, the team is serving each other. And finally, the quote from David Marquette, he says, "Imagine a workplace where everyone engages and contributes their full intellectual capacity, a place where people are healthier and happier because they have more control over their work, a place where everyone is a leader." That's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for. And that place is not going to be perfect, because there is no perfection. We're not perfect people. We're imperfect people. So there's never going to be perfection. But I think if those characteristics, those 10 characteristics that we talked about as servant leaders, once we exhibit those characteristics, we will understand that we're not perfect. And you know what? It'll be okay that we're not perfect. It'll be okay that we're not perfect. So that's it. That's all I have to say.